Let's talk about Tuck and why he's impossible to cuck. I'm going to give it away right now. The reason that he's impossible to slay is because he's a genius at asking questions. It's also his show, so obviously he gets to ask the questions. But he's always framing the discussion in a way that he knows is to his advantage. Because obviously when you see him versus somebody who's learned on climate change, for instance, the whole thing falls apart. But that is the genius of asking questions, is that most people who strongly believe in something, and the reason that they strongly believe in something is because they haven't done any research, and he finds out very quickly if they have or haven't by asking them questions, because most people who feel strongly about something, such as just the worst thing that happened in the world was when there was an advertisement on the Opera House. Really, the worst thing to ever happen. Well, top 10. It quickly disseminates back, and then usually goes with a reproach of anger where they just go, I don't know why I'm being so confrontational. But that general tactic of asking questions is the best form of debate there is, and that is because the human brain is an assessment mechanism. Its entire function is to survive, and the way that it survives is going, if I go over that cliff, will I die? As you always ask, if you're ever with a dumbass in primary school, what is the major question they ask when you go to, all right, we're going to go look at the Blue Mountains? The first question they ask when they look down is, oi, if you fell down, would you die? They're just saying what is in the internal dialogue. We were all thinking it, but as soon as somebody verbalizes it, you go, idiot, of course you die. And the only reason you think that is because your brain works a little bit faster than theirs. So they're genuinely asking, would you die? I need an answer to this, boys. I'm thinking of doing it just to find out. But because you see the distance of it, you just a little bit faster as a 8-year-old, you go, yeah, you will. Next question. But that is what your brain is continually searching for, questions. And this is the trick of the mainstream media, which is that it is constantly framing debates in really small, narrow discussion areas. And so the general issue is never addressed. You know? So what does the mainstream media obsessively focus on? SJWs or people being racist, whichever media flavour that you look at. It's really got nothing to do with politics at all. But that is what political discourse all throughout the Western world has descended into, and the reason they do that is because it's all just a distraction, none of it matters. But what is the genius of it, and you can still learn things from this, is that, I don't know, it just went blank there for a second, but it was like when you're just on stage, when you're in kindergarten. There's so many primary school references of this, but yeah, when you're in kindergarten, and then you've got one line, and you go, this is it, oh fuck, I forgot. Cry and run off stage. A little more mature than that now. Now I just internally cry. But the thing that you learn from self-help consistently, over and over again, is that questions direct your mind. And if you consciously ask questions, you can consciously direct your mind. That's exciting. That means, and this is a great self-help adage, if you want a better quality life, ask a better quality question. Meaning, a lot of people, their entire life, when they get into a groove, say that they're sad, for instance, and they go, I'm sad. Then they just keep thinking about why I'm sad. I'm so sad. There's so many reasons for me to be sad. For instance, this is not the exact colour of green that I like. Olive green. I'm more of a lime green man. These things, so your brain, because it just likes thinking about the thing that it's thinking about until it gets redirected. And usually with most people, they don't know that they can direct their mind with questions. And so their mind just veers to wherever the last question was asked of them. So they go down that path. You can see it with Tucker Carlson. Every time he's asking one of his formidable opponents, the chick from Teen Vogue, he asks them a question, and then they feel compelled to answer it. What does an experienced debater do? When they're asked a question, they just answer the question that they wish they were asked. They ignore the question altogether. That's the difference. Most people, when they're asked a question, they think, I've got to answer it, because that is the instinct in the human mind. But you don't have to. You can ask your own questions, and that's an empowering existence. That's when you really take life by its horns and go, suck them like poppers. The horns, that is. It looked like I was sucking 2 cocks at once. No, I'm sucking ivory cocks. But, and this is what your homework is obviously going to be for this one. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about questions and how they work and direct them. But the thing that you should be thinking about for your homework is some questions that you can ask yourself to get into a state that is more empowering, because what is a good life? It's just living in a good state. I've said this over and over again, that in my life, in my circle of friends, because of self-help, I've exceeded a lot of them, despite the fact that I was actually a lot poorer than a lot of them when we were at school. And the reason is because self-help taught me the skills that I need to get out of that rut. But the other thing as well is that I've been able to direct my mind using these questions is to prioritize what's important. That is what irks me so much about, like, the debates about sexism and, oh my God, the SJW got owned, righteous, is that it doesn't matter if the world is melted. And the reason that I'm able to think so clearly about that is because of self-help. It is just making you a psychologically healthy person if you follow these principles. So the question for you obviously is, what are some questions that you can ask yourself to get you into better states, to get you more motivated in life? In fact, let's just ask that one for the beginning. What can you ask yourself to get more motivated? What is a question that you can specifically ask yourself? So, because a lot of people, the primary problem with most people is that they live their life like a dog, which is that they sit there for 20 hours a day, and then when it's time to walk, they go, "Yud!" and then they walk away. But they're looking for external stimulus. Like a dog, they're waiting for someone else to give them permission to go on a walk. Don't be one of those people. And the way that you don't become one of those people is that you start angling your life using questions. In that, most people ask themselves questions such as, why do I feel so sad? And you could be asking yourself, how do I get happy now? That's more empowering. And there's a lot of ways that you could become more happy, and you know what they are to yourself personally. But obviously the main ones are exercise. Every single day that you exercise is a better day than a day that you don't exercise. And another one is that you can just change your facial expressions to smile, and that is clinically proven to cure 95% of people that were clinically depressed. That's why every time I say this, and then everyone goes, oh, it's pretty shit these days, mental health issues don't matter. And it's like, well, let's look at your life, shall we? Oh, the best thing you've ever done in your life is that you went to a music festival 3 years ago? Yeah, that's the person you should be taking advice from. The thing is that, yeah, obviously there is a chemical imbalance with some people when they're depressed. That is not the majority of people, and there's a lot of data to back this up. You can Google this. The vast majority of people that are diagnosed with depression from their doctor is basically the doctor just being like, shut up, yeah, just Prozac, next. Most people just haven't consciously reorganize their mind to make themselves happy. And I know this because I was one of those people that was just like, oh, I'm all sad and just depressed all the time. I just wish the Smashing Pumpkins was part of my generation so I could listen to their righteous tunes. They understand. But the thing is that it's basically that you're not redirecting your mind to make yourself consciously more happy. You can do that. Most people are focusing on mainstream media, which is designed. What is the mainstream media's purpose? In everything. And we're not even talking about news just here. It is designed to keep you glued there. Now, think about your dog. Why does your dog constantly look sad? Because it's lying down. It is not moving. Emotion is just energy in motion. When you're moving around, you feel more excited. You feel more vibrant. You're oxygenating yourself. And basically, if you oxygenate yourself, you're going to feel happier. Nuts and the bolts of it. Now, there are some people whose brains don't fire off properly, and then they just feel perpetually sad. Yes, those people exist. But in general, you can make yourself happier. You are responsible for your happiness. This is another thing that I constantly ask when I'm talking to people that are depressed about their life. They're constantly saying that, yeah, I don't know, I want to just be around other people so it makes me feel sad. But why do they want that? Because they want to be around other people so it gives them permission for them to continue being pathetic. They don't want to take responsibility for their life and for their emotions. And it's easy to do. All you have to do is construct a few sentences. How do I feel excited? How can I make myself feel happy? How can I get myself more motivated? Ask yourself these questions. If you ask yourself those questions, it keeps spacing out in this video. I love that when you're watching Alex Jones, when he just goes on to this passionate ramble and then he just sits there kind of just glazed out after a while, just being like, well, that's the end of it. Still have 4 hours of this show. If you ask yourself a few questions that are more empowering, that are more about getting you into better states and getting you more motivated, that is the building block to a good life. That is the building block to success. That is what is going to get you from where you are now to where you want to go, is asking yourself questions. So, the 3 questions that I think that you should write down, and then you should write down a few others. Just ask, after this, write yourself 3 more that have personally worked for you. So for instance, the ones that I constantly ask myself is, how can I get myself to feel excited? And that's why everyone goes, are you on cocaine? All the time when they're writing this, because that's the only fucking time that they ever feel excited is when they take cocaine. That's really disgusting. But, oh, well, whatever. If you think that your brain is fine, that's fine with you. God, I've got to stop being a mum to people my age. That's what I basically made a career out of, just finger waggling people. But how do I get myself more comfortable? What you need to do is write down some questions that are more empowering for you, but the things that I think are very, very beneficial. First of all, how do I get myself more motivated? How do I get myself more excited? And how do I get myself happier? If you ask yourself those questions, your mind will start to realign. If you learn about brain plasticity, the thing is that the brain just likes to do what it keeps doing because it's easier for the neural connections to go there. But you can rewire your neural connections and make your brain work for you. You can do it. It takes a few months, but it happens. So you need to ask yourself some questions that are more empowering for yourself, because that is the key to life. If you want a better quality life, you ask yourself better quality questions, because your brain goes to where the last question was asked of it. And then after that, you will buy clothes from Target. All right, see you next week.